You found yourself on another edition of Let 'em Know Kings United, and on today's episode, the 8-game winning streak for the Cavaliers has been snapped by Milwaukee as the Bucks got the Cavs out of rhythm all night long. We got a lot to talk about from the Bucks win over the Cavs right here on Let 'em Know Kings United.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. This is Let 'em Know Kings United. Let 'em know, Nation. You already know what time it is. Welcome to another edition of Let 'em Know Kings United, your Sacramento Kings, Chicago Bulls, and Cleveland Cavaliers post-game reaction podcast. And I am your host, Skylar Weisberg. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into today's program. And you can find Let 'em Know Kings United, which is 100% completely free and available on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, or wherever else you want to listen to the show. Give the show a follow on those platforms if you can please be so kindly with that. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you want to listen to this on. It is a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. There's an old expression that a wrestler by the name of The Undertaker, one of my favorite superstars in World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE, said this a couple years ago when he returned on, I believe it was 2015, after he attacked another wrestler by the name of Brock Lesnar. He said this: "Streaks are made to be broken. That is the painful truth." And unfortunately for Cleveland, they had to realize that painful truth as the Milwaukee Bucks not only exacted their revenge, but beat the Cleveland Cavaliers with their new interim coach 126-116, snapping the 8-game winning streak for the Cleveland Cavaliers. My initial reaction coming in after the game was over, while I was planning this show like overnight like I normally am. I originally was going to go on a route that I was going to go on a natural born rant saying how the Cleveland Cavaliers were absolutely pathetic. We looked lifeless all game. We showed no effort. I was going to do that. But then I realized, look at what the Cleveland Cavaliers did. Instead of a ship that was sinking, the Cleveland Cavaliers were a ship that was cruising. And let me tell you something, doing what they did without two other superstars, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, their two best leading scorers, for the Cleveland Cavaliers to right now be 10 games above 500. They were 11 above 500 coming in. Doing that without two of their all-stars, I mean, that's something that I got to give Cleveland credit for, first and foremost. I got to give the Cavaliers credit. Despite the loss, I am proud. You hear me? I am proud of the Cleveland Cavaliers about how the ship stayed together, how J.B. Bickerstaff and that coaching staff stayed the course. Unfortunately, the Milwaukee Bucks exacted their revenge because the last matchup, we all know what happened, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers smoked that Milwaukee Buck pack. They lit up Milwaukee and smoked them by 40. That did not happen. But what did happen was Giannis Antetokounmpo being an absolute monster. He got a triple-double, and the Milwaukee Bucks delivered the night after their head coach, their former head coach, I should say, Adrian Griffin, was fired. Now, there's an old thing that happens around sports, and that happened for the Milwaukee Bucks. A new coach brings a new energy, a change of atmosphere, a change of vibe, if you will. Just look at the Las Vegas Raiders. Look at the Las Vegas Raiders, for example, right? They used to have former longtime New England Patriot offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. He sunk the living ship out of the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's be honest here. And he, rightfully so, got fired. Add in Antonio Pierce, and the Raiders were clicking on all cylinders. Hell, they even upsetted the Kansas City Chiefs, who are now heading to the AFC Championship against the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, my Lord, that is going to be a really fun matchup. They upsetted the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead on Christmas Day. I mean, who else could say that? Right? Upsetting the potentially AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. I got the Baltimore Ravens, but potentially AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead with Antonio Pierce as the interim coach. Think of what just happened earlier today in the sports world. Brandon Staley, rightfully so, fired as the head coach of the LA Chargers. Add in Jim Harbaugh, straight out of college, straight out of the University of Michigan, who went 15-0 in the national championship. He enters in, and I believe Justin Herbert from the LA Chargers, the quarterback of the LA Chargers, is going to get a big, major upgrade. But this is not an NFL show, but I'm making some references to prove the point that Milwaukee came out with more energy and more poise than the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. And I expected it. Even though I always want the Cleveland Cavaliers to win. Let's get that right. Even though I was expecting Milwaukee to win the game, I always wanted the Cleveland Cavaliers to win. Unfortunately, though, that was not the case. As Giannis Antetokounmpo recorded his third triple-double in his last 4 games, the victory capped off an emotional couple of days following the dismissal of Adrian Griffin the night before. The 2-time MVP scored 35 points. He matched a season high with 18 rebounds and had 10 assists for his 7th triple-double of the season. The Greek Freak was 1 assist shy of having 4 straight trip-dubs after having 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists Saturday in a 141-135 triumph against the worst team in the league, the Detroit Pistons. And Antetokounmpo said this: for a coach like Griff, from day one, everything was about togetherness. He was always leading this group into the direction we set at the beginning of the year. Him not being here, at the end of the day, we're humans. It hurts everybody. But we got to keep moving forward. We have a goal in our head, which is to be the best basketball team it can be. I credit the Milwaukee Bucks. Seriously, I do. Seriously, I got to give them credit. With a new interim head coach, by the name, a new interim head coach, Joe Prunty was the name. Griffin was being fired despite going 30-13. And I'm like, this makes absolutely no freaking sense in the world. If you are a team with a winning record like the Milwaukee Bucks, 30-13, a clear 17 games above 500, clear. Why would you get rid of a guy who used to play in the NBA like Adrian Griffin? Some might say that some might say the players have lost trust in Adrian Griffin, or Adrian Griffin perhaps lost the entirety of the locker room. That could be the case, But Joe Prunty and an assistant on Griffin's staff coached the Bucks yesterday while team officials were finalizing negotiations with Doc Rivers to eventually take over. A person with a knowledge of the negotiations told the AP. Damian Lillard said, "I think our experience really worked in our favor in this case." Ace. And by the way, Dame Dollar was doing Dame Dollar things, scoring 28 points last night. We've all experienced a lot of things. I think this was different for everybody, but I think we just understood we had a game tonight, and it was going to be a tough game against a really good team that kind of handled us the last time we played them. But Prunty, though, has a plenty experience in the interim head coach. He went 21-16 with Milwaukee a couple years back, and also coached the Bucks during the first round 7-game playoff loss to the Boston Celtics after the midseason firing of now current and soon-to-be former Dallas Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd, because I think Jason Kidd is absolutely terrible as the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, but that's another story. Prunty was 2-0 with the Hawks last season after the Hawks fired Nate McMillan, and before they hired Quinn Snyder, who is sinking Atlanta faster than a sinking Titanic ship. Prunty said it's not easy, but you do have a job to do. That's one of the things that we talked about as a team, just talked about. Look, we still have responsibilities. We still have roles. We still have jobs that we have to do on the court. So you just move forward, but it's not easy. It really is. It really isn't. The Bucks have the Eastern Conference second best record, but the Bucks weren't playing defense nearly as well for Griffin as they had under our former head coach, Mike Budenholzer. Now look, Milwaukee has a lot of talent, okay? When you have Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo on your team, you have a ton of talent that will help you win ball games. The defense that might have slacked off for Milwaukee just a little bit. Just a little bit. But as far as talent level, the talent level is especially there for Milwaukee. And then you still got some heavy hitters on your team, right? You still got Chris Cash Money Middleton, who made some big time threes, and Brook Lopez, who was an absolute monster in the paint. Milwaukee looked much better on Wednesday while cooling off the NBA's hottest team in the land. The Bucks' last loss in Griffin's 43-game tender was the 40-point blowout heard around the world, the most lopsided defeat of the season. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, this was a game where I just felt the Milwaukee Bucks caught the Cleveland Cavaliers out of rhythm. Coming into this game, the Cleveland Cavaliers had just trailed for 35 seconds in his last 5 games and had 3 straight wire-to-wire victories. But tonight, the Cleveland Cavaliers never led. J.B. Bickerstaff said, that's a prideful team. There's champions over there in that locker room, so we did expect their intensity to be lifted. Give them credit. They played well. And Chris Middleton, Cash Money, had 24 points for Milwaukee. Donovan Mitchell had 23. Jared Allen, another double-double. I think that's his 13th straight double-double for Jared Allen. He had 21 points and 12 rebounds. Niang and Strus added 14 points apiece. Sam Merrill, who's normally on fire, had 12 points. Isaac Okoro had 10. But basically, this was a game that I felt that the Cleveland Cavaliers were completely out of their rhythm. Out of their rhythm from the jump. I mean, I knew Milwaukee was going to look better. I knew Milwaukee was not going to allow another 40-point shuffling at the hands of the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially in FISA form, where Milwaukee has been dominant in their home floor against Cleveland in recent years. But I felt that Milwaukee turned up the energy on both ends of the floor. And I also feel that the Cleveland Cavaliers forced shots all night. They were not in the rhythm or the flow of the offense. I believe we were forcing and we were settling for threes instead of getting into the paint, moving the ball around, doing what we've done the last couple of games. I think we allowed to play to Milwaukee's level tonight. Not the fault of the Cleveland Cavaliers, though. Not the fault of them. I just think Milwaukee had more energy considering the circumstances, and I think Milwaukee was the more desperate team than Cleveland, despite the fact that the Cavaliers were coming into this game winning 8 straight games. But in any event, both teams, for the most part, shot the ball well. Both teams shot 50% from the field. The three-point percentage was a slightly big difference in this game. 38% for Milwaukee, 34% for Cleveland. The rebounds were 46-39 in favor of the Bucks, including 10 of those on the offensive end. The assist numbers, 26-24 in favor of Cleveland. The steals were 9-5 Milwaukee. The blocks were 3-2 in favor of Milwaukee. The points in the paint were 56-54, a slight edge for Cleveland. Fast break points, 20-14. And part of that is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because in transition, all he does is get the ball in the middle of the floor and just goes straight to the paint. Goes straight to the lane. In order to stop that, the Cleveland Cavaliers they had to force or meet Giannis Antetokounmpo in the middle of the floor. If you don't do that, he's gone. I credit Milwaukee for that game plan, but I blame J.B. Bickerstaff and the coaching staff who have been doing good recently, who have been doing good during these last 8 games, these last 8 wins. I blame J.B. because he didn't coach the right way. He didn't have the proper game plan against Milwaukee, knowing that Giannis Antetokounmpo was back on the floor. Anyway, you slice it, Giannis Antetokounmpo is definitely the Greek freak for a damn reason. As far as who stood out for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell led the Cavaliers in scoring with 23 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and a steal. He was 10-24 for the field, but only 2 for 11 from three-point range. Sam Merrill continues to be outstanding off the bench with 12 points, 4 of 9 from 3. All of his shots were threes, to be honest. He had 3 assists and 2 rebounds. George Niang did well off the bench, 14 points. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 of 7 for the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range. Welcome back, Karis LeVert. He had 9 points with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Jared Allen, 13 straight double-doubles. He's still an all-star caliber player despite the loss. 21 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. Max Strus did really well with 14 points, 6-11 for the field with 4 rebounds and 2 assists. As far as Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo is an absolute beast. 35 points, 18 rebounds, 10 assists for him. Damian Lillard, it was Dame time in Milwaukee with 28 points, 4 assists, 2 steals. He was 10 for 11 for the free throw line, despite the back shooting 8 of 21 for the field. Chris Middleton is absolutely cash money. He did not do his damage from 3. He hit the dagger 3 in the tail end of the game, but he did most of the damage inside and in the mid-range game. He had 24 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 8 of 15 from the field for him. Bobby Portis was doing his thing off the bench with 8 points. Brook Lopez, 8 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a big-time block. But I want to talk about one more thing before I close out the show. The Cleveland Cavaliers were facing some adversity of their own. Tristan Thompson was suspended for 25 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy by testing positive for, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. He took performance-enhancing drugs. Now look, I understand that the leagues in all sports are cracking down on PEDs, and as we all know, taking performance-enhancing drugs is absolutely illegal. But my God, Tristan Thompson, you are dumb. You are stupid. You have no common sense. It's that simple. You were brought to the Cleveland Cavaliers to bring a veteran presence to the team, a mentorship to some of the young guys, more specifically Craig Porter Jr., Amani Bates, Sam Merrill, just to name a few. You were just named the Special Olympics ambassador. As someone that played for Special Olympics, I expected more of you, Tristan Thompson. I expected more of you. So now you're going to be suspended for 25 games. I mean, how dumb could you rather be, Tristan Thompson? What you did is an absolute disgrace. What you did was disrespectful to the game, disrespectful to the Cleveland Cavaliers organization. You certainly did not earn the respect of your teammates. Quite frankly, you lost the respect of the teammates, and you lost all respect for me as a Cleveland Cavalier fan. When you eventually get back from their 25-game suspension, you got to earn my respect back. Right now, I don't trust you, Tristan Thompson. You are dumb. You are an idiot. You are stupid for taking PEDs. And as a Special Olympics ambassador, you know better than that. You know better than that. You have disgraced the Cleveland Cavaliers for doing that. Disgrace. Disgraced. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, or wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Skylar Weisberg, and I will see you next time for another episode of Let 'Em Know Kings United.